Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am your host, Mary Katharine Ham. He's my co-host, Vic Matus of the Washington Free Beacon. We're your morning show for any hour. We got a lot going on, as usual, with Israel updates and the ongoing Speaker of the House ridiculousness, and a story about jeans. We're going to get into that. We have fashion advice for you guys, but before that, how's it going, Vic?
Hello, Mary Katharine. I am on the mend. So the other day, I was helping Kate with a light bulb problem. It turned out to be the different kind of, it's one of these fan light things. So you have to remove the covering, of
so you're holding the ladder for her?
It's a step ladder. How many Matuses does it take to change a light bulb? And she was getting frustrated with it. And in fact, the bulb snapped off with the thing still inside. So that was a problem. But then you just said, well, let's have the other one work because I'm pretty sure it still works. So I got the other one to work. That was fine. But this is in my son's bedroom, and I just decided, I'm just going to leap off the step ladder and then, and then push myself against the bed. But I didn't pay attention to underneath is, it's like one of these beds on top of, drawers and stuff. So it's wood. And
oh, no.
It sticks out, and my knee slammed right into the wooden corner of the bed frame thing, what would be the box spring, but it's
right.
That really hurt. And I hit my knee. I bang my knee on my desk here at the office from time to time, and it's a total pain in the kneecap. This was the side of the knee, and it really hurt for the whole night. And so I took in a leave, and not so much swelling, but it was warm. And so I put like a cold compress on it, and it's better now. But it's still just a little bit. And all I can think of is I hope it's not like some sort of a chip fracture, but rather just I really hurt the tendon. And I was reminded, Mary Katharine, of your elbow because a listener to the show, Matt's Mule, says that you might have gotten a bone chip in there stuck in the tendon. This is a lovely way to start the show. How is so my question is, how is your elbow?
My elbow's pretty fine. I will say, look, I think there comes an age when just hopping off a step stool is not a thing you can do, right?
It's not.
And certainly Biden is at that age, but we might consider that we are also at that age, that the chances for injury go up quite a bit post 40. My elbow is feeling okay, but it occurred to me when our listener very kindly emailed that, and he said that he had this happen to him. There was a bone splinter. He had a very minor surgery, and it fixed the problem, which makes sense because it's a very sharp pain when I put it at the wrong angle. It occurred to me I've heard this before because I've had elbow pain before in this elbow since I was in 5th grade. When Channing Day, who I was playing pickup basketball with, I think I was like fouled pretty hard, and I fell down on the floor, and Channing Day came down on my elbow. And since that time, I have periodically had this problem, and then I think I exacerbated it with this new injury. And it hadn't occurred to me that Channing Day old injury might have been flared up again during this. So maybe I've just had
flared it up.
Maybe I've just had this issue since 1990.
It's like, people with hairline fractures, they don't realize it, and then something more serious happens, but as long as it goes away, I guess it's okay.
I feel like I'm okay for now. I will keep you guys updated. I'm also okay for now because I'm in a very nice hotel room.
I see that. I knew immediately. I said, wow, that's a lovely guest room of your friend's house. and Jennifer and I both suspected this was based on the headboard.
Yeah. So I have decided, by the way, that the sign of a really good hotel room is how hard the coffee maker is to find, because they don't just leave that thing sitting out in a nice hotel room. Okay.
That's a good point.
In a motel, you have a coffee pot like next to your alarm clock.
Yes.
Right. So you just turn over and it's right there in front of you with all the fixins.
Yeah.
But
and it's not usually great coffee either.
No, but they can't have that. This is not a Hampton Inn, friends.
Not at your hotel.
So this morning before we started the podcast, I searched for a good 12 minutes for the coffee pot. And it's not because this room is gigantic. It's nice, but it's a normal sized hotel room. But there are two sort of fancy quartzified cabinet-looking things on either side of the room,
Mhm.
one of which doesn't open. It's like the AC
Yes.
situation, but it's
Yeah.
all,
Yeah,
camouflaged in a
to
beautiful
make it
way.
look tasteful.
It's all camouflaged in a beautiful way, so I thought, "It's not there." I checked the closet, I checked the bathroom, sometimes it's in the bathroom in a little closet. I try to enter the adjoining room by accident. If anyone's staying over there, I'm sorry. That that one didn't open. And then finally, I realized that there's another quartzified cabinet closet-looking thing on the other side of the room that does open, and it has
And
a tiny, tiny little handle that is the same color as the entire cabinet, and I finally found the coffee behind
and it
there. I
was kept
forgot
in
to
there, like, in a little cupboard.
yeah, and it's an espresso in there, it's not joking around. But that's how you know that you're in a nice place, because even
That
the
is very
Nespresso,
nice.
they're not gonna have all out in
No.
the open for you.
No, no, it's not like my house where
No, that's not
everything is,
part of the
you know,
decor.
every appliance is out there on the counter, but I don't think I've ever made coffee in the room. I would go down to get coffee. A friend of mine used to work at the FBI for many years, and he said, "Don't use the coffee machine in the room, they use it for meth." But I think that would be the motel, not at where you're staying.
I don't think it's this place,
No, 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 unless it's the
but
blue meth, but
but
yeah.
I generally go downstairs, but this is a large hotel, and it's a
Yeah,
hike down
yeah,
to where
it's
you would ask
big lobby.
someone where the
Yes.
the
You
coffee
might
is.
have where you are, Mary Katharine, you might have, like, a butler service. You could
I mean, honestly,
just
I might.
it's impossible.
I'm giving a speech, and they put me up in a very nice place, and I got to see a West Coast
Oh,
sunset
oh my
last
gosh.
night, and I have not yet walked on the beach, but I will because we are right next to it.
You have to.
So I will get on that. But yeah, now I did get the coffee, everything's good. I am underprepared, but possibly medium caffeinated. So
Okay, good.
here we are. Shall we talk about the news, Vic?
Let's do it.
All right. We got the Trump gag order. We have not talked about this yet, and I
No.
like I felt remiss, but there was
Yeah,
so much going on. Let me read
yeah.
from the Washington Post. The Trump gag order happened what, like a week and a half ago or
The
so?
first one, yeah.
The first one. It has since been appealed by his camp, and the judge has said, "Yeah, sure, well, let's put a stay on it." Judge Tanya Chutkan, is that how you
Yeah.
say her name?
Mhm.
Agreed to temporarily lift the gag order that had restricted Trump's public statements about special counsel Jack Smith, his team, and witnesses, while she considered a motion from Trump's lawyers to suspend it entirely while they appeal. Within 48 hours, Trump issued a new broadside attacking the prosecutor, Trump's first since the gag had been imposed. On Sunday, he took to his social network Truth Social to attack Smith in the exact terms that the order had prohibited, calling him deranged Jack Smith. The sequence illustrated the careful dance Trump has engaged. Careful dance Trump engaged in? I don't know about that, Washington Post. Since Shurkin issued her order, he had refrained from immediately and flagrantly violating the gag order while it was in place, even as he railed against it and continued attacking judges and making a host of other comments that, while not technical violations, most defense attorneys would advise against. I mean, he's not listening to his attorneys, clearly. He was mad about the gag order, obviously. It did have certain limitations. I believe he was still allowed to was he still allowed to attack the judge, just not witnesses?
Yes, that's right, and I they asked whether or not he can say Department of Injustice, and that was questionable. It's funny that they say the careful dance because it's more like Elaine's dance in Seinfeld.
Yeah,
A little bit all over the place.
is his dance.
Yeah, that's the dance. He finds himself in a real pickle because, of course, in the spur of the moment on the campaign trail, he cannot help himself. He can't restrain himself. So I think the lawyer's argument's going to be what they would consider unconstitutional prior restraint, right? And you're
Right.
going to prevent him from saying something. But as you mentioned, if it involves officers of the court and such, that's a different story. It's kind of like the weird, it's kind of like the mafia rule. You don't go after the civilians, the judges and the lawyers and the
Right,
cops.
right.
You're not supposed to. And same thing for, I guess, if you are Trump. So but again, there are two different ones. There's the Judge Chutkan
Mhm.
gag order, but then there's the Judge Engoron gag order. And that one, he just got slapped with a fine, I
Okay.
believe $5,000 because he claimed, or he just said that the court clerk was Chuck Schumer's girlfriend. And I don't think she actually knows Judge Schumer. Chuck Schumer, I could be wrong.
Uh,
Um, and so they said, "Oh, wait, hold on." And and I don't envy the lawyers because they might not even get paid. But Trump's lawyers said, "Hold on, we'll take it down," which they did. It's not Twitter, it's Truth Social, but they left it on the campaign website for 17 days,
Okay.
and they said that was a slip up. That was completely inadvertent. Nevertheless, 5,000. But Judge Angron says, you keep it up, and I'll consider all options on the table, including imprisonment. That would be wild.
So I'm a little torn about this because the
Yeah,
certainly Trump shoots himself in the foot at every turn by going after court officials,
right.
people who are not really the stars of these cases. However, if the government is going to take the tack of unprecedentedly
Yeah,
prosecuting a running likely nominee for the presidency and former president, it seems like they should take a real light touch with whether he can defend himself in public. Now, I would argue a gag order might do him good legally, right? Because he's not listening to his lawyers. Maybe
yeah,
he would listen if it's 5,000 bucks a pop every time he endangers himself by saying something
yes,
stupid in public. But I think he has a right to talk about this.
right.
And I think that the government should tread lightly. I know, a ridiculous thing to think they might do, instead of sort of gleefully shutting him up when, again, they're taking an unprecedented step in all of these cases in prosecuting this guy while he's running for president that inherently has dangers to our whole system.
Yeah,
And if it were me, I'd be like, continue talking, sir.
yeah.
Continue talking.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like, I think about how Trump got banned from Facebook and Twitter. And in weird ways, it was like the best thing that ever happened because then people,
Yeah.
for him, the best thing that ever happened, not for this country, but for him, because people tend to forget all the outrageous and offensive things that he has said. And they're like, oh, and then, you're currently, experiencing, the Biden administration and all of its problems. You're like, wait, what happened to that other guy when things were fine and everything was safe and the
Yeah.
economy was good? And then likewise with the gag order, it would probably do him good. It's not going to prevent him, obviously, from turning this into another fundraising opportunity. And in fact, right after that gag order, I get the email, right? Because they just blast out these emails from the Trump campaign. And it says, and I have it right here in quotes, the Biden administration can try and gag me, but they can never gag the American people.
There you go.
That's pretty good. That's like I could have written that. They should pay me. But yeah, it's he wants to continue to let people know that the fix is in and it works everybody up. And I don't know if he almost. I wonder if he kind of wants them to say, I dare you to put me in jail just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Because even if it's just temporarily, there'd probably be riots. But we'll see. But I'm with you on this because you get into a very dangerous territory, and it's
Yes.
not like other politicians have not gone after, judges, certainly on the Supreme Court or wherever, complaining about them. So again, it's, as Chutkin wants to do, it's a case by case
Right.
basis.
Well, and keeping it as limited as possible, I think is important. Like, I don't want the people who are
Yeah.
aligned with the court, who are stenographers and what have you, or the people
No,
who are witnesses to be
yeah,
subject to his followers coming after them, which is one
yeah,
of the things they're concerned about. But
sure.
again, that is part of the price of free exchange of
Right.
ideas. And I worry about this person being shut up when he is being prosecuted and he's running for president. I just
Yeah.
think that's a problem. Although, like I said, he often shoots himself in the foot. And because I just enjoy reading a Truth Social every now and then,
Oh,
shall I tell you about the one he had on Mark Meadows this week? That's his
oh
former
boy.
chief of staff,
Yes.
who is a witness in the January 6th related
Yeah.
stuff. This is posted recently. I don't think Mark Meadows would lie about the rigged and Stalin, Stollen, 2020 presidential election, merely for getting all caps immunity against prosecution, all caps persecution by deranged prosecutor Jack Smith. But when you really think about it, after being hounded like a dog for 3 years, told you'll be going to jail for the rest of your life, your money and your family will be forever gone, and we're not at all interested in exposing those that did the all caps rigging. If you say all caps bad things about that terrible all caps monster Donald J. Trump, we won't put you in prison. You can keep your family and your wealth, and perhaps if you can make up some really horrible all caps stuff about him, we may very well erect a statue of you in the middle of our decaying and now very violent capital.
You know how sometimes presidents will say something and you think to yourself, well, that speechwriter did a really good job at putting that together. there's no question in my mind this was not a speechwriter. This is the president
That is the
himself.
president.
But what did he say? I think he said this to Bill Barr, according to Barr's memoirs, with regard to the tweets. You just got to make you craft a normal tweet, and then you make it just a little bit crazy, and that's what he's doing. I
That's
will
how you
say
get
this:
the engagement.
how I talked about, and a listener agreed with me in my interpretation yesterday about Corinne Jean Pierre and her ridiculous answer to anti-Semitism was talking about Islamophobia. I will now take in defense of Trump and part of this. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
Stolen. You said it was Stollen.
Mhm.
Yes, because, well, as you know, Trump is of German
Okay.
heritage, and it's almost Christmas time, and I think he's thinking of the Stollen bread, which is that
Ah.
brown, spiced, cinnamony
Oh.
bread with the powder on top, the Stollen. That's what he's
My
thinking.
father makes a Stollen every year. Yep.
Look at that.
When he was the editor of the paper, he used to make one and take it into the office
Oh,
every year.
man, that
It
is a
is
great
it's a
little
really,
treat
really
with
beautiful baked good.
yeah,
I am not into sweets in general. It's not my thing, but it's
sure.
gorgeous.
Same. Yeah, and it's not too sweet, I feel. It's more of a spice thing going on, and
Yeah.
it's great with coffee in the afternoon. Now I'm dying over here. Okay,
I'm sure that
well,
that is what
I love
Trump was referring
that's
to,
what he think
and
of the Stollen. It was in his mind. He was hungry. He was hungry for the Stollen.
it is almost the holiday season.
Yeah,
So, gosh, it's really sneaking up on us. Okay, I do want to talk since we're on Trump, let's do a little bit of his jumping into the speaker
yeah.
nonsense. Hello, everyone. Well, the thing happened that always happens, which is this is like an anti breaking news podcast. We had to record a little early. And then, of course, as soon as we were done, Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana was elected Speaker of the House. How did this happen, you might ask? Well, the Republican caucus seemed quite happy about this choice the night before it happened, the night before we recorded, and shortly before they voted. They had smiles on their faces. We hadn't seen them that happy for a while. And I think this is like they were kind of losing it because it had been a long time and everyone was tired. And they decided maybe we should just vote for a guy whose superpower is that 5 to 8 people don't hate his guts. And that person was Representative Mike Johnson. And, a lot of people didn't know much about him. They started learning things about him. Pretty conservative guy. Definitely had his hand in legal efforts to overturn the 2020 election, which is what some people are paying attention to. Some Democrats are seemingly gleeful that they may be able to pin his extremism on Republican candidates, but I think that's unlikely as speakers becoming toxic to normal voters is difficult because they don't care who speakers are. And given that most people in Washington did not know who Mike Johnson was, unlike, say, a Nancy Pelosi, who is a household name and has been made one effectively by herself and Republican operatives over the years, since we didn't know really who he was, I think making him stick is going to be difficult. Now, one of the things I thought that he brought to the table, in addition to the superpower of not having 5 to 8 people who hate his guts, was that he released a letter to colleagues that had a plan for what they might do with the rest of the legislative calendar through this year and into the next. And look, it's ambitious, but he wants to get these bills moving. He wants to get back to more regular order, and he offered goals for doing that. That's a little something called a plan. And I think it would be helpful if Mike Johnson explained that concept to Matt Gaetz, who nonetheless is backing him as everyone in the Republican caucus did. But, a plan is a step up. So here we are. We marched forward. Who knows if Vix and my comments from the other day are still applicable, but our editors will make wise decisions about that. This is the update. We will learn more about Mike Johnson as we move forward and whether he can have a governing coalition. Good luck. All right. What else we got? We're going to do some Israel
Yeah, sure.
update. Again, we're still awaiting ground incursion because Hamas is trickling hostages while leaving members of the same families within their detained, shall we say?
Yeah,
Held
detained
hostage
is
there.
what some of the papers use that term.
Yes. So Israel's hand has stayed a bit here. This makes me worried because I just think if this show doesn't get on the road, then their capacity is going to be limited and the pressure is going to be so great on them.
Yeah.
Now, do Israelis care about that? I'm not sure that they do because at this point they feel very much that they are facing an existential threat in a new way and even an elevated way from
Yeah.
where they have been before. And by the way, I should note that while we're having almost exclusively discourse about what Israel's conduct should look like, the rockets have never stopped coming from Gaza, and
Yeah, you don't hear much about
they
yeah.
are indiscriminate. They are designed to hurt civilians. Every single one of them does not fall within international law, and yet we do not hear about that part of the story. So just a reminder that that's going on. But Israelis feel like they are facing, and Jews around the world feel like they are facing this existential threat in a new way, and perhaps that's partly because of the reaction. And I just want to read
Yeah.
a headline from The Guardian today. Israel must stop weaponizing the Holocaust. That's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, it's another way of phrasing it, as I always used to say, I mentioned on this show, my old college buddy, Jose, you knew that there's gonna be a turn in his opinion when he would start by saying, "So and so is nice and all, but" and this is the same thing, "The Holocaust was terrible and all,
Mhm.
but you need to stop weaponizing it. Can't we move on?"
Well, so and
Because
the
it's the reverse, it's the turning of the tables where a lot of anti-Israel people like to claim that the Israelis are Nazis, which is sort of a sick, twisted term.
yes. It's yeah, pretty perverse. So the here's
Yeah,
the paragraph that states what, a lot of as we've been talking about this oppressed oppressor ideology from college campuses and among academics
yeah,
is illustrated in this column. It says a powerful state with powerful allies and a powerful army engaged in a retaliatory attack against stateless Palestinians under Israeli settler colonial rule, military occupation and siege is thus portrayed as powerless Jews in a struggle against Nazis. This historical context in no way justifies or excuses the mass murder of 1,500 Israelis on October 7th, which constitutes a war crime and crimes against humanity. The context of the Hamas attack on Israelis, however, is completely
however, there's the
different.
however, yeah,
It's
yeah.
completely different from the context of the attack on Jews during the Holocaust, except for it's the same thing driving it, which
I'm
is
pretty
that
sure they just wanna kill Jews, which is,
well, and again, this you
the
have this
common
issue.
thread.
There's a common thread. And then you have this issue where power equals evil no matter
Mhm,
what.
right.
And therefore, powerless is
Oh, right.
virtue no
Yeah,
matter what.
yeah,
And therefore, the tactics of Hamas do not matter. And the tactics of Israel matter more than anything.
yeah, because they're the ones in power,
And
so,
that is just a double standard that, again,
yeah,
if you're using it for only the only Jewish state in the world, perhaps there's a reason that
mhm,
we're using that standard for the only Jewish state in the
yeah.
world.
Again, and I mentioned this on the last show, Baraka Ali, who was a Hamas commander, who said on an interview on Russian TV that, you know, they've been planning this for years, and what they had to do was just give the illusion that they actually were interested in governing when in fact
Yeah.
they were just buying time in order to plan more death and destruction. They're not actually interested in running Gaza. If they were, they would have a better working water system, as you
Right.
know, instead of using pipes for rocket parts. I am going to give credit where credit is due. Ready for this? This is a
Okay.
surprising one, and again, it changes from day to day and hour to hour. But I'm going to give it to him now, which is John Kirby, believe it or not, White House spokesman, the former admiral. He was asked about a ceasefire, and I was rather surprised at the press conference when he says that ceasefire will only benefit Hamas.
Yeah.
And he's right about that because time is on their side. The longer they can drag this out, especially if you trickle out, a couple hostages at a time, we have 200 to go through. This will buy us some serious time where we can rearm and rebuild. And he also reminded the press, look, war is bloody. I mean, and he knows that this is and innocent people will be harmed. This is unfortunate, but this is war. The idea, this notion that we have that it's like I remember this girl from college saying, couldn't in the war, couldn't you just shoot at the enemy's hands so they can't use the guns? I
No.
kid you not.
No, ma'am.
It's if the and
Did
so,
she pass the foreign service test?
I don't know if she even took it. In any event, but there is this belief that, again, can't you just avoid all these, this unfortunate collateral damage? And all this is, again, the fault of Hamas here because they wouldn't be in this position
Right.
if they didn't have the hostages and if they didn't slaughter 1,500 with the aim of killing more. Again, they want to kill all of them. So, but the problem for Kirby and the problem for Biden is they may feel, I'm glad they feel this way about the ceasefire, but, um, you know, the administration is very divided. They have allowed this Trojan horse into the administration, and you see
Right.
this now. Bureaucrats in the Defense Department and the State Department, they're, these unsigned, letters, calling for an end to Israeli quote unquote occupation and apartheid. There's a Pentagon official who on Instagram was openly anti-Israel and cheering on the protesters in front of the White House, the administration that he works for, really.
The deep state can really come around and bite you in the ass, you know?
Yeah. No, it's really
Uh,
turned on them.
s
Yeah.
Oh, back another media example back on the home front. The New York Times is dealing with it's like a stringer who works for them on this
Okay.
issue in the area who has been found to have praised Adolf Hitler several times in his tweets,
Oh,
and people brought this up to the New York Times, and here's the Times's answer to that. Remember, by the way, this is the New York Times, which fired, I believe, 2 editors after
oh,
they,
after
uh
Tom Cotton's
after
harmful op-ed
after Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed. So just keep that in mind while we
saying that
read this.
maybe we need the military to step in to end these fiery but mostly peaceful protests. Yes,
Yes.
okay.
So this is the time. The Times' selection of journalists has come under sharp scrutiny in recent days as well. An Israeli diplomat chastised the paper for employing Suleiman Hiji as a freelance videographer in Gaza to document the conflict. On numerous occasions over the past 11 years, Hiji has praised Adolf Hitler or invoked the Nazi leader in social media postings. A spokesperson for the Times says the paper reviewed those problematic is in quotes, by the way,
Yeah.
problematic
Man.
postings of all the things that could be problematic and that the New York Times has called problematic in the past 10 years.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't do this one without quotes. So,
Now,
prob-
the general policies of the Third Reich may be considered problematic by some.
these problematic postings last year when the issue was first raised and took actions, quote, to ensure he understood our concerns and could adhere to our standards. The statement says that he has done so, and has delivered important and impartial work at great personal risk during this conflict.
They made him promise not to publicly praise
I
the
mean,
Nazis.
that's ludicrous.
Well, and it's
Look,
ludicrous, and it's
here's a
also, again,
here's a
no surprise, it's cowardly.
like, okay,
They're scared.
some might say he shouldn't lose his job over these views. Again, these are pretty extreme views, guys. If you're
Yeah.
praising Hitler on the Twitter, that's pretty extreme.
Maybe he was talking about the highway systems.
And I, and I think if you're covering the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and are also praising Hitler, perhaps there's a conflict of interest here and you cannot be impartial and perhaps you should be videographing other things.
Yeah.
If
That's,
the New York Times would like you to stay employed because this is not the gig. But he's still there.
again, as you mentioned, you compare to, as Barry Weiss mentioned the other day as well, what happened after Tom Cotton's op-ed and how people lost their jobs and
Yes.
journalists were harmed. The words were harmful. It put them in danger.
No,
The op-ed put them
weirdly,
in danger.
weirdly, no open letters from the young staffers at the New York Times about this guy.
No, it would
Emily
be quite the
Zanotti.
opposite.
Emily Zanotti, a friend of mine who's edited many places in the past, including Fox News and Daily Wire, and she noted that when on Twitter that when she's spoken to the New York Times in the past about job opportunities, that they have been wary about her because she believes that life begins at conception. So pro-life
Yeah.
off the table. This guy, yeah, we're gonna
Yeah, no,
see how it goes.
the pro-life thing is problematic without the quotation marks. Is now, Mary Katharine, did you see what happened outside of GW's campus yesterday?
Yeah, this one's pretty nasty.
It is. I assume they are student activists. That's what I assume.
Yeah.
Used one of those giant building projectors where you can
Mhm.
project something onto the wall, the side of a large building, messages in support of basically Hamas because there was glory to the martyrs. I
Glory
believe is
to our
what they
martyrs.
said.
That one really got me.
Yeah. And the divest from the Zionists, right? And
Mhm.
something to that effect. And then I believe from river to the sea might have been the other one.
Yeah, pretty openly.
On the side of the Gelman Library, which is named after a Jewish woman. So there's a lot of
There's a
terrible
lot
ironies
there's
happening.
layers there's
Yeah.
layers here. I would also, again, just to point out how these institutions have stood up for free speech in the past 2 years, when Beijing was hosting the Olympics, George Washington University had an incident
Oh, right.
in which Badiou Chao, who's a really great Chinese dissident satirical cartoonist, there were students who put up posters criticizing the Chinese hosting the Beijing Olympics in the student center, and really cool pieces of protest art that had sort of Olympic events, but portrayed with blood of the Chinese people on their hands
Right.
and that kind of thing. The administration got wind of this by some quote, I'm gonna put it in quote, offended students by
Mhm.
the quote,
Mhm.
problematic
Mhm.
content of these protest posters, and sent an apology to the students and said that this is the president, he found them offensive and he would make sure that they were removed as soon as possible. This is extremely mainstream
Yeah.
political speech to go after an authoritarian government about its humanitarian
Yeah.
record, and they wanted to apologize and clear those out immediately. He later had to backtrack because he was like, "Oh, oops, I guess free
He
speech
was
is a
yeah, he
thing."
had to backtrack because he was outed, you
Yes.
know? I mean, their convictions are, they're it's totally mutable, and again, if you wanna be really cynical about it, I'm sure they get a lot of dollars from China, and, I maybe I'm wrong about that, but I
No, you're
assume
correct, they
much
do.
like China donated millions of dollars to the University of Pennsylvania, when after the Biden Center was
Yeah.
opened. So,
No, you're correct, they do get a
yeah,
lot of money, from China, they're in a
yeah,
specific strategic alliance with
sure.
them for
Okay,
academic stuff. By the
right.
way, my friend Guy Benson, who is a Northwestern alum and has been hounding them about their institutional response to all of this,
That's right.
they have a Qatar campus.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And the
Yeah.
Qatar campus is staffed by at least one guy who has been on media several times denying that these
Mhm,
atrocities happened.
mhm. Qatar, which hosts a lot of top-ranking Hamas leaders, yes.
Yeah. The universities are in trouble, Vic. They're bad.
They really are. There was a large protest at MIT, I just saw that on the news as well, and that one, they're yelling about one solution intifada.
It's not
Well,
good.
just say final solution, let's just cut to the chase.
Yeah, cut to the
Right.
chase. Let's just be honest
Come
about
on.
it. There's also an alert from UC Berkeley where an Asian studies class was instructed that they could get extra credit for one, students can attend the National Student Walkout tomorrow against the settler colonial occupation of Gaza, info attached below. Or two, students can watch a short documentary on Palestine and call or email your local California representative using this link tree. They give you the link to email your representatives to do activism for lefty activism for your grade.
And this is for Asian studies?
It's Asian studies. Yeah, that's correct. What do you I'm gonna play a little clip of Ron DeSantis who has a take on,
Oh,
uh,
yes. Yeah,
students who have been at these events and who have sort of crossed the line and been
yeah,
pro-Hamas instead of
yeah,
just
yeah,
pro-Palestine.
sure.
Here's a clip of him talking about it.
And I think what this terrorist attack in Israel has shown us is we're vulnerable from all the people that have come illegally because they have come from Iran too. It's not just Mexico,
Yes.
Central America, Russia, China, Middle East, all that stuff. But I think what we also saw when the blood wasn't even dry on the Israelis who had been massacred, you had people in America going out protesting in favor of Hamas.
Yes.
And that's like very chilling. Some of these people are not U.S. citizens. They're student visas. So as president, if you're on a student visa and you're a foreigner and you're out there celebrating terrorism, I'm canceling your visa and I'm sending you home.
So taking student visas from students who outwardly support this terrorist organization. What do you
Right.
think of this idea?
Yeah, it's very tricky because I'm sympathetic to him. I understand that it's offensive if somebody were to say, "I support Al Qaeda, I support ISIS." I mean, you want to say, "No, get out of this country." This could be a problem for us if you have enough people. And I think there are a lot of people who their sympathies for the Palestinian people are expand to and include sympathies for Hamas. But now that we know that Hamas is not actually interested in governing and that they just want to kill, it's been in their charter. It's not like it's a secret. We've always known this, but you feel like you want to do something about them being in this country. But I feel like if DeSantis does this, I mean, he's going to face some enormous legal challenges and
Yes.
hurdles regarding protected speech for visitors or non-visitors, or Americans or non-Americans, I should say.
Yeah, because I think, like, look, I know that we're allowed to say who can be in the country and who
Yeah,
cannot. I know the Biden administration declines to do any of that, but the
yeah,
the federal government is allowed to make those rules. But once people are here, they have First Amendment protections.
Yeah.
So I think once you're engaging in speech on a college campus, even
Mhm.
detestable speech while you're here,
Yeah.
and we have let you in under the rules that we decided, then that becomes very tricky to lay the hammer down at that point. Perhaps is there a way to screen for such things when you
Yeah.
are giving the student visas in the first
And
place?
it's a
That
little too late for that, as we can see now,
yes,
because it's successfully infiltrated in academia and in certainly in parts of the, the corporate sector, but, and it's students and it's professors.
yeah.
So, but I don't know if you want to take it strictly on a political terms, does this help DeSantis? Does this move the needle for him by taking this position, do you think?
It
Or
certainly
is
doesn't
he
hurt him. I think
No. Yeah.
this is a thing that on a gut level,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, well, you have legal protections and you have First Amendment protections, and I want to stay true to that. Normies are gonna be
Yes.
like, nah, man. You come
Right.
here and you talk about from the river to the sea and
Yeah.
you endorse genocide and you if you go too
Yeah.
far, then we have the right to say you go home. And look, I don't think that's a totally invalid take, and I think it's
Sure.
definitely probably a common take among voters, certainly in the Republican
Yeah,
primary.
they might not publicly admit that, but I mean, again, if you understand what from the river to the sea means, if you understand what intifada entails, you
Oh,
should
by
be
the way,
concerned.
have you seen the
Yeah.
parsing of intifada this week?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah, and a lot of people on the Twitter saying, "Hey, intifada can mean several things,
Oh,
okay?"
yeah, much
Uh,
like gender.
well, I also think we had the term intifada sort of tested in the real world several times, and it was very clear what it meant,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
involved a lot of
yeah,
blowing people up
yeah, in the
at
'90s and
bus
the early
stops, so
2000s. Yeah, that's part of it. Everybody was doing their part,
yeah.
as you know.
But
Um,
now we're supposed to really be really sensitive about how intifada could be used and what these chants mean.
Speaking of DeSantis and earlier Trump, did you have thoughts on the latest fundraising totals that have come through?
Yeah, I mean, it's
3rd quarter. Yeah.
probably worth level setting. The 3rd quarter is, like, not a great quarter for
Supposed
everyone
to be
because,
it's supposed to be a low one. Yeah.
August happens in there, and I think it's pretty just a pretty down month. But I'll read from the Wall Street Journal on the recent numbers. President Biden has established an early advantage over former President Donald Trump in their competing quest for campaign cash. Biden raised a combined 71 million with the Democratic National Committee during the past 3 months, his campaign said, surpassing Trump and other Republicans seeking the 2024 nomination. Here's a look at the biggest takeaways. So Biden's fundraising totals surpassed Trump for the second straight quarter, and the largest came during July, August, and September, typically more difficult times to raise money. So that seems
Yeah.
like a good sign for him. He raised, like I said, 71 million, more than double Trump's 35 million during that quarter. And remember with Trump that 32 of that is going to go to legal fees.
I was gonna
So
say, I have it here in bold, legal fees. That's what I have in my notes, legal fees.
that definitely not all
Yeah.
that money is going to the
Yeah.
campaign. So they're feeling pretty good about that.
Do you
And
remember when the selling point for Trump was, you don't have to give him money because he's a billionaire? Do you remember that?
you know, you know the only thing that actually makes me think that Trump is not winning by the margins
Yeah.
that the polls suggest
Right, because
is
the
the
polls
way
are
that he talks
oh,
about the race. Like
with
a
a hint
guy
of
who's
desperation?
yeah, a guy who's winning by that much just shouldn't be tweeting all
Mhm.
the time that he needs all your money and he needs all these
Yeah,
people out of the race. But I think I guess they could just be
yeah,
knowing how fast they're running through money. That
right.
could be
Yeah.
the
No, no, no. I think that could be true. And the
that.
other thing is, I mean, there are a lot of big, deep-pocketed conservative donors out there who are willing to give, but they're still on the sidelines. They're sitting on the fence right now because even if they're not many of them who are not fans of Trump, they're not giving to Trump, but they don't know who to give to at the moment.
Yeah.
And they have these meetings. It's kind of like in Succession where, they have the big weekend and then the campaign will make the case,
Yeah.
to the donors, Ken Griffin or whoever, and just say, here's why, you should give to me. But I get the sense that nobody's convinced. And it's true. You look at the primary numbers, Trump still dominates. When everyone's talking about how Nikki Haley has taken the lead over DeSantis,
Right.
in the grand scheme of things, it's still very small. I don't know if you looked at how much money everybody else is getting. So like, as you mentioned, Biden cleaned up in the quarter with 71 million, and then Trump with about half of that at 35 million. And DeSantis and Nikki Haley significantly lower than
Right.
that, right? I
15
mean,
million for DeSantis,
yeah,
12 million or slightly less for Haley.
Yes.
So
And they're scrambling for just, all these basically the chump change in the grand scheme of how much money is out there. I'll tell you what was most shocking to me looking at that chart. Asa Hutchinson raised $700,000. And I think that is a lot of money for Asa Hutchinson. Like, who gave 700,000 to Asa
yeah,
Hutchinson?
yeah.
Man,
I enjoyed this tidbit.
pay off
And
a mortgage.
a fundraising contest called, quote, Meet the Presidents, which promises the winner a chance to meet both Biden and former President Barack Obama, raised nearly $2.5 million. Here's the fun part. So-called Dark Brandon mugs depicting the Biden meme with red laser eyes produced nearly $2 million in revenue since August. So I love the fact that America is funding this campaign at only $500,000 less with Dark Brandon mugs
Yes.
versus meeting the former president of the
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
This is who we are as a people.
That's right. That's right. I
That's
mean,
why Mike Collins is my favorite representative. We're just a meme people. That's who we are.
it is thoroughly depressing. Did you want to talk, Mary Katharine, about the housing market, or no? Is that a thing for today?
We can.
Okay, let's you want
Well, while the presidential candidates are hoping that their money goes as far as they can make it go, buying ads and such, American homeowners, different story, Vic.
Yeah.
Different story. This is from NBC News. A tough market for home buyers keeps getting tougher as the combination of rising prices and climbing mortgage rates makes it even harder to afford a home, new data shows. People are still buying homes, but about 4 million are on track to sell this year. Rising mortgage rates and the shortage of homes for sale, which feeds rising prices and bidding wars, has weakened homeowners' financial position. Your dollar, according to this data, goes half as far as it
Half.
did at the end of 2020. That is pretty depressing.
It's funny. Kamala Harris's Twitter
Mhm.
feed. She tweeted out that she and Joe oversaw, I believe, 14 million new jobs, more jobs created in one term than any other president in the history of America. And of course, people are saying, well, when you lost that many jobs in the first place,
Yeah, if you order everyone by
yeah,
government decree to stay
right,
home and not work for
right.
6 months, then yeah.
But the situation with the housing market is not a metric for Bidenomics. So they could talk
No,
about
no,
the
no.
jobs, but they cannot talk about housing. And I don't even know how they can spin this to blame it on Republicans. I really don't at this
No, it's like,
point.
what happened in 2020?
Yeah, yeah,
What happened at the end of 2020? I guess they could argue like, look, we weren't here until January of
yeah.
2021, so probably
That's right.
it was all December of 2020 that the
But
badness
but
happened.
we're talking about it's the worst environment since like 2009.
Yeah.
And there are people, I mean, just nobody's going to leave because if you have a mortgage rate of like 2.68, which
Right.
is insanely good, you have to go into a new house and suddenly your mortgage rate is 7.6. No one's going to do that. So nobody's going to leave. If nobody's selling, then everybody's stuck where they are, including renters.
I mean, this
It's
is what we're dealing with. We have a much bigger family, but we're
yeah,
not upgrading
no.
because we can fit where we are. And if we try to go moving and
Mhm.
buying something else, we're going to get much less for our money
Yeah,
than we currently have.
I'm trying to think. There's got to be a bargain in here somewhere for somebody. Somebody's got to make out like it's not me, but I'm just trying to figure out who it is. Who's going to benefit? I mean, will housing prices as a result go down because it slows down, or they just not
Yeah.
decide not to put it on the market? I don't know.
I don't know,
Not good.
but
Okay.
it's tough out there.
Yeah,
It's tough
yeah,
out there.
it is. It is. All right.
Okay, we have one more story. This is an
That's
important
it.
one, Vic.
Yep.
How often do you think you should wash your jeans?
I actually asked this question to a gene expert named Jonathan Last. I'm not a gene person. Let me just preface this by saying
That's
I'm
true.
not.
You don't usually wear jeans.
I no, and in fact, a colleague of mine, Tim Rice, laughed that I only had one pair. But I said, number one, I'm old. I'm old. Number two, when I do wear jeans, even Kate will say, "Oh, that's a new look for you, wearing jeans." Okay, but I do have one pair of jeans. It was a gift that Jonathan had given to me and Sonny Bunch. Prana, which was his big favorite brand,
Yes.
Prana. I think they're very expensive, and I actually like those jeans. They have, not that I know much about jeans, but they have a gusseted crotch, deep pockets,
That
but
sounds
they're
vaguely dirty, but I won't
I know,
inquire further.
I know, but it really is. It gives you, so it's a lot of room. but they're not. So it's roomy, but they're not dad jeans. That's the key, right? They're not Obama's jeans when he's throwing out the first pitch.
He
Okay,
really
so
did not have good denim game.
no,
It was
it was
bad.
that bad bluish color too. The one that is again
Yeah.
like a mom. So I asked Jonathan, and I believe he's like, I don't know, once, twice a year, maybe. So I mean, I don't actually, well, I don't wash in my house anyway. That's somebody else's. That's Kate's department. But maybe once or twice. I think it's
Yeah.
within it's in the same department as sending your tuxes or suits to the dry cleaners.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be often. Mary Katharine, you're more of a jeans person. You
Oh my
got
gosh, I
your
have so
you
many
got
pairs of
torn.
jeans.
You have are all your jeans the torn jeans, or you have different styles?
I have torn jeans, I have intact jeans, I have cropped jeans, I have
Skinny
high-waisted
jeans.
jeans, I have stretchy jeans, I have hard jeans, I have some leftover skinny jeans in case those come back into style and then
I
I'm
just
in an
heard they're
emergency
gone.
situation. Yeah, they're completely cycled out at this
Do you
point.
wash them?
Yes, but I have a system. There's 1 or 2 wearings, and then they get draped in a different chair in
Oh, yeah. No, I do that as well. You
and
air
then
it out. You air it
yeah,
out. Air is a great way to clean clothes.
and I think you can go 3 wearings, 4 wearings with jeans without washing. I don't always do that because I have a rotation, you know?
So what you're
I got
saying
a
is
lot
like after 20 is a good
I
time
don't
to
go that far
right.
because here's the problem.
Mhm.
If you go more than 3 wearings, your butt's not gonna look good because 'cause they're gonna be real loose, and
Oh.
you don't need that in your
Oh,
life.
yeah, because when you get your clothes back, particularly jeans, that's true. When you get them back after a wash, they're tighter.
Well, and
That's
sometimes
true.
they're a little too tight, you know, and you can blame that on the
Oh, I
dryer,
know.
or you could blame it on your December diet. I
Well,
don't know which one it is.
we're bringing this up because it was in the news, right?
It was.
Experts. And what was the expert's opinion on this?
Okay, so I like this story. It's a Fox News lifestyle story.
Mhm.
How often should you wash your jeans? Cleaning experts settle the debate. And they settled on basically like you can go 3 to 10 wearings. So
Oh,
10
okay,
is
well, right up my alley.
10's quite a lot for me,
Mhm.
but again, that's mostly because they lose shape. And I I enjoy this advice because it's very
Yeah. That doesn't matter, I think, as much to me, I think.
yeah, I'm not sure that people really needed this advice, but
Mhm.
the advice is like, "Hey, if they smell or have dirt on them, you should clean them."
Yes. Yes, somebody mentioned that in the piece, right? "Oh, if you spilled
Yeah.
sauce on it."
Yeah, like spaghetti
I don't know.
sauce, probably
Yeah.
time for
Yes.
a wash if they smell. Also, I don't really understand why people have such smelly jeans. I guess if you're using your jeans for real cowboy stuff,
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're,
obviously.
lassoing,
Yes,
you know?
obviously they're gonna be
Yeah,
smelly. If you're at a
yeah,
campfire,
yeah.
I think you should
Uh-huh.
wash your jeans. An Another thing that they went through, like, wash your jeans at the proper temperature,
Oh,
which is, "Hey, are you ready for this?
yeah, cold.
If they smell,
Oh.
wash them hot."
Oh, yeah.
Because it'll get more out of them. And cooler temperature is okay if they don't have a lot of stains or
Mhm.
smells, and then, you wanna spot clean them. Drying jeans, they suggested hanging them up, but here's another one for folks who
I would do
apparently
that. I think that's correct.
here's another one tip for people who, like, have were just born. Don't put damp jeans in the closet because it could develop a musty smell.
Oh my gosh, but here's the thing, you know what? This is funny, Mary Catherine. From time to time, I will come across a young person,
Mhm.
not saying who or where, and that smell is unmistakable. It's moldy,
Oh,
and
yeah, no,
it's
I'm
like
very
in there.
we
But
have
my yeah.
Go ahead.
No, well, do they notice? Don't they can't they smell that they're musty?
So we have
Because it's so strong.
So we have the thing in our house, obviously, because 'cause we're busy and we have 4 children,
Sure.
where stuff gets left in the washing machine for too
Oh,
long, and then someone will flip it,
yeah,
and if
yeah.
you don't inspect it before you flip it, it might have a
Oh,
smell, right? I gotta tell you, most people in my family don't notice that smell, but I do.
we
And
have
so,
more like, maybe that's it. Maybe
yeah,
we're just more sensitive.
they'll dump a dry load of laundry, thank you, family, for me
Uh-huh.
to fold, and the
Oh,
the smell's coming off it. I'm
gotta
like,
put it back in the
this
dryer.
gotta go again, guys. We
Yeah,
gotta start from the
yeah,
beginning, do the
yeah,
whole process again.
yeah,
But yeah, maybe look, colleges don't teach anything but colonialism
yeah,
and oppression.
they do.
So a lot of people have probably missed this stuff. So I'm glad that Fox News is on it. And now you know, don't put your wet jeans in the closet.
On that note, that wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Matus. You know what? Correction, actually. I'm going up to Jersey this weekend, Mary Katharine, and I'm going to find my other. I said one pair. I have another pair of jeans. They're like Guess jeans. And I think
Nice.
they're a little bit, what do you call them? Bleached? What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, acid washed.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got
acid wash.
stonewashed jeans?
Yeah, yeah, I got the stonewashed Guess jeans. I'll bring them out.
Oh my gosh, this is from your Bon Jovi days. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple things I forgot to mention. I was on a podcast called Ask a Jew this week with two women, one a secular Jew who's in Tel Aviv
Mhm.
right now, and an observant Jew who lives in Southern California, and they just talked to various guests. So we had to talk about my time in Israel
Well, that's
and
great.
grief and all these things.
Yeah.
We did that interview the day before the massacre.
Oh my gosh.
So they couldn't release the podcast until we did an update to our
Yeah.
discussion. But both parts are good. These women are very interesting women who obviously have really important perspective on this time. So if you want to check that out. And then I also, on a sad note, a friend of mine, mostly from Twitter, and a
Oh,
guy you
yes,
know
mine
as
as
well,
well.
Nathan Wurtzel, passed away yesterday suddenly. And he was just a really good guy. He was a Republican consultant to various offices and
Yeah,
campaigns over the years, including, by the way, Colonel Mannion, who is the father of Travis Mannion of the Mannion Foundation,
yeah,
ran
yeah.
in 2008, and he helped with that campaign. So he knew those guys. Just an honest, smart person whose judgment I trusted, who I interacted with on Twitter at least several times a week over the last 10, 12 years. I will miss talking to him. He
He was very thoughtful and from my hometown, or at least he spent some years in his youth in Tom's River, so we knew all
yes.
the same places.
Yeah, a Jersey guy and also a proud, fierce advocate for the Jewish people.
Yes.
And the last thing he tweeted about and penned was a fundraiser for one of the kibbutzes or kibbutzim. So in tribute to him, I put on my Twitter feed. Maybe we could throw that campaign some money because it's
Yeah,
for a bunch of people who are now refugees within their own country and have lost everything
everything.
they have. He will be missed. He's a person whose voice I would love to have in this fight right now. So maybe may his memory be a blessing to everyone. We're losing too many good people. So sorry to end on that sad note, but I wanted to lift him up and his family up. So I think that's it for today, Vic.
Right. Okay.
Thanks for getting hammered responsibly, everybody. This has been a Nebulous Media podcast.